Hi, I'm Peter J. Ray. Welcome. Today's topic is Tom Zuck's U.S. Civil War Diary, 1863, Part 5. This was originally published as a Zuck Family Memories Collection, number 17, or ZFMC 17, on March 22, 1989. A first-hand account of the siege of Vicksburg by a Union soldier. May 30th, 1863. This is a continuation. About 1 o'clock we started off for the brigade and marched through the hot sun and up one hill and down the other until we were pretty well done for. After marching about 10 miles we encamped on the top of a hill for the night. This hill is within 3/4 of a mile of the rebel lines. Of all the rough country that I ever seen, this is the roughest. Nothing but precipitous hills and deep ravines. It should be a perfect Gibraltar for strength, and would be if it had been defended by men fighting in a good cause. May 31st, 1863, circa Vicksburg, Mississippi. This morning we were up and off by sunrise and arrived at our position after marching about 3 miles. Our position is in a ravine some 600 or 800 yards from the rebel line of fortifications, but the hills on either side are high enough to protect us from the rebel shells unless they should happen to explode immediately over us. This afternoon, the Rebs in the fort just in front of our position got one of their guns up to an embrasure in their earthwork and let fly a few shells over our heads, but they did us no other harm than causing us to lay pretty close to Mother Earth for a few hours. Occasionally a rifle ball from the Reb sharpshooters rattles through the ravine and into the opposite bank, but I think there's not much danger to be apprehended if we only keep close and watch ourselves. Our sharpshooters are within 20 or 30 yards of the rebel forts, and they, with our batteries, make it very unsafe for the Rebs to show their heads. Indeed, it is only once in a while that they can get a chance to man a gun at all. None of our boys have yet been hurt. Colonel Brown came back to the regiment this evening. He says that the 60th Indiana were attacked by about 8,000 rebels under command of General Price at Perkins' plantations, immediately after we left and only escaped under cover of the gunboat. They lost some of their camp equipage, and some of our regimental wagons were burned to prevent them from falling into the rebels' hands. June 1st. Sunday brings no peace to the closely invested Rebs, neither does it allow us any relaxation from the constant watchfulness that is necessary to keep the harassed scoundrels from breaking out of their works and through our lines. Last night they made another vain attempt to disengage themselves from the grasp of the fearful army that is, anaconda-like, enclosing them within its deadly folds. Every point of egress is now closed against them, and their only chance now is either to surrender or risk a heavy slaughter by breaking through our lines. June 2nd, 1863. Last night we were awakened from our sleep by the rattle of musketry and compelled to take our places in the rifle pits for a couple hours. The Rebs had tried to make an exit through our lines, but did not succeed in getting farther than our pickets when they concluded to give it up. The 60th Indiana came up today and took up their position immediately on our right. The firing of the pickets has been pretty steady all day today, and our batteries have kept up a pretty regular fire all day. Nothing else of particular importance has taken place. June 3rd. Last night the Rebs made an attempt to get out in front of our division, but had to retire again on account of the heavy fire from our batteries. They succeeded, however, in killing one of our pioneers and wounding 2 others. Our defenses are being heavily strengthened. Batteries are being planted at short distances all along the lines on our front. We had to sleep in the rifle pits all last night. June 5th. The usual amount of shelling has been kept up by our batteries today, and no answer from the rebel batteries. I can't see how the rebels can stand it much longer. Their sharpshooters still keep popping away at ours, but it is only once in a great while that they succeed in hitting anyone. Our men are so well protected in their rifle pits. Old Joe Vance was ordered with the regiment to occupy a certain rifle pit last night, but instead of going where he should have went, he took us right up to the rebel fort before he knew where he was going. And it will always remain a mystery to me why the Rebs did not open their fire on us and entirely destroy us before we got away. But God willed it otherwise, and we got away before anything serious happened. The men universally condemn the old blockhead for this movement. June 6th. Today I am 26 years old. Oh, what wonderful changes have taken place since my own career commenced on this mundane sphere, and what changes in this our once happy country. Things about here today have progressed about as usual. A great many shells have been thrown and lots of powder burned, but without much apparent effect on the Rebs in Vicksburg, according to the dispatches that have been captured from Pemberton to Johnson. This is the last day they can hold out. June 7th. Sunday is again upon us, but we would not know it was Sunday if it was not that our batteries have almost ceased from firing. I went to our division hospital today to see one of our boys that was shot through the face the other day. He was detached from the company as a cannoneer in the 17th Ohio Battery. He was just in the act of ramming down a load in one of the guns when a rebel sharpshooter popped a ball into the porthole and through Reed's face, making a severe, if not mortal, wound. But there is a flattering prospect of his recovery at this time. We got our knapsacks and tents last evening again, so now if we can only get enough to eat, we are pretty well quartered. And if it was not for the rebel bulls that come dodging into our valley occasionally, we could call this a very nice camp. But then we have holes dug all along in the hillside, and it is impossible for the rebels to hit us if we only are a little careful. June 8th. This morning it was said all our batteries were to open up on the devoted city simultaneously, but somehow it has not been done. Sherman was to have opened the ball by blowing up a fort on the right, and then when the rest opened up, he was to have made a charge. June 9th. Things move about as usual today. I met with an unlucky slip today. I was cutting some cane poles to make a bed, and while climbing around over some logs to get the cane out, I stepped upon the stub of a cane stock, and it run into my ankle, making an ugly-looking wound. But it is not very deep, and I hope won't make much of a sore. This afternoon, General Burbridge sent for me to come to his headquarters and try my hand on some maps that he wanted copied. But as the originals were not to be had immediately, the job was postponed until tomorrow. June 10th. All this forenoon it has been raining furiously, and our quarters are almost entirely flooded. About 11 o'clock I got to work on the map and succeeded admirably, some alterations having to be made. I had to go up to the front and look at the ground from our rifle pits, a performance the Reb sharpshooters do not approve of, from the way they throw their shot in this direction. Another heavy storm came up this evening and threatened to drown us before morning. I will go back to headquarters in the morning and finish my map if nothing interferes to prevent. June 11th. I am hard at work on my maps today again, and they appear to give pretty good satisfaction to the general. I went up to our work and made some essential alterations in my original map. I think that the next one will be pretty near right. The firing has been pretty regular today. Nothing of particular importance has taken place. June 12th. This morning my detail was made out and sent to the colonel of the 96th. I can now consider myself regularly installed as General Burbridge's mapmaker for the balance of the time that the siege of Vicksburg lasts, and maybe longer. The general seems to like my drawings first rate. I have to run some pretty narrow risks in getting my lines sometimes, for it is necessary that I travel the whole of our division advance lines. Some rebel deserters came over last night and report the rebel garrison is almost in a state of starvation. Nothing but regular firing has taken place today. June 13th. This morning I went clear to our front works within 20 or 30 yards of the rebel fortifications. It makes one feel a little squeamish to get so close within range of the rebel rifles, but I succeeded in getting a sketch of the outworks and can now make a pretty correct map of our outworks. The general seems well pleased with my map and intends that I shall make quite a lot of them. June 14th. Sunday again has come, but I must work today, for the general wants a map to send in with his report, which he wants to get in immediately. This afternoon we were compelled to desist from work, for the Rebs opened a battery on one of our working parties, and the shell and shot rattled about our quarters very lively for a few minutes, but no one here was hurt. We sought protection under the cover of a neighboring bluff. June 15th. Last night the Rebs opened on our working party again and succeeded in killing one man and dangerously wounding another. 4 of my maps were sent off today. One to General McClernand, Corps Commander, one to General Smith, Commander of our division, and one to Colonel Landrum, Commander of 2nd Brigade. The 4th is in the hands of the Adjutant General and will be sent to Frank Leslie for publication as soon as things are brought to a termination here. Tomorrow I will have to make a map to go to General Grant. Most of the boys from our mess have gone to witness a Mississippi Negro ball this evening. My foot being sore, I concluded to stay in camp tonight. I begin to like my new position very well. We are well provided for, and the general is very kind to all. He treats us all as if we were old familiar friends. No one can help loving him. June 16th. All has been quiet today, or at least as quiet as could be expected while conducting a siege. I've made 2 maps today. One of them was sent immediately to General Grant, and the other remains in the desk. The Rebs have been throwing a few shells in this direction. We very unceremoniously broke for the bank. Nobody was hurt. June 17th. The Rebs still continue to land an occasional shell in our vicinity, which causes us to scratch our way to a place of security in rather an unsoldier-like manner whenever they come too close. But then, considering that we are not armed, nothing better could be done under the circumstances. I got through with my first maps today and expect to commence one of Arkansas Post as soon as I can get the copy. June 18th. Today I have been loitering around doing nothing on account of the non-arrival of the copy for my next map. Nothing of importance has taken place in our front today. June 19th. Last evening my copy came, and today I am hard at work. General Logan's divisions, which is to the right of ours, is making some rapid strides towards the rebel forts in this front. All who are watching his movements seem to think that he will soon succeed in driving the Rebs out of the forts in front of him and occupy them himself. June 20th. Worked half the day and laid around the other half. Still, nothing of importance has taken place to change the usual course of the siege of Vicksburg. June 21st. All is moving on as usual today. This siege is beginning to be very tiresome. The long-expected prize is in the future still, and how long it will remain so, no one can tell. June 22nd. One of the regiments of our brigade was ordered to Black River today to reinforce General Ousterhouse. The balance of our division were soon after ordered to hold themselves in readiness to march in that direction at a moment's warning. It is supposed that Joe Johnson is coming in with a heavy force to attack us in the rear. June 23rd. All has been as usual today. Our works are rapidly approaching those of the Rebs, and an encounter is soon inevitable. June 24th. Today, as yesterday, has been void of important events. June 25th. This morning we were calculating upon another dull routine of siege work, but about 9 o'clock a.m. an order came for the brigade to occupy the rifle pits with every necessary preparation for an assault. Morgan's division of McPhermon's corps was to blow up a rebel fort at 2 o'clock p.m., and it was expected there would be an opportunity to storm the works in the confusion of the Rebs. About 1:30, I and my friends, B.J. Williams and Mr. Stiles, took our position upon an eminence that commanded an extensive view of both lines, although not entirely out of range of the rebel rifle balls. After waiting and dodging about until about 4 o'clock, the doomed fort was observed to be heaving, and immediately an immense cloud of earth and smoke rose high into the air. This was the signal. A shout that would almost have startled the very stones rang along our lines, accompanied by the thunder of 700 pieces of artillery and a tremendous rattle of musketry. This was kept up until almost dark, when our fire was gradually slackened, and by 9 o'clock p.m. you could not have told from the appearance of things whether a gun had been fired all day. There was but few casualties on our side and none in our brigade. Logan succeeded in making a lodgment in the crater formed by the blowing up of the fort, but whether he will be able to hold it is the question. But many think he can easily do it. I have heard many old soldiers express their opinion as to the firing today, and they all say that it was the most terrific they ever witnessed. It was awfully grand and must have made terrible havoc among the Rebs inside of their works, for they expected an assault and immediately formed in their front works to resist it, thereby placing themselves in position to catch the greater part of the iron and leaden tempest that went sweeping from our lines. June 26th. There's always calm after a storm is the old adage, and today it has been truly verified, for it is more quiet than it has been for several days. June 27th. No change of program has taken place today. All is as usual, regular cannonading at intervals. June 28th, Sunday again. I have worked part of today on a map intended for General E.O.L. Ord, our new Corps commander. June 29th. Nothing of note has transpired today. We are having beautiful weather nowadays, but it is rather warm. We have green corn now and other garden fixins, but I suppose such truck is not so early as it would be if war had not so roughly set its foot down in these parts. June 30th. Today has been excessively hot, and especially in these ravines where we are compelled to stay, as it is not safe to run round or stand still on the hills in this vicinity. The rebel sharpshooters can pick a man off at this distance easily. One of the boys of Company D-96 was wounded while laying in his tent. A 12-pound shell struck between his head and shoulder and went several feet into the ground. He is seriously, if not mortally, wounded. His name is John Geyer, and he belongs to the same mess that I do when I am with the company. They have taken him to the hospital. July 1st. All is as usual today. The siege is progressing favorably. July 2nd. Nothing of importance has transpired today. July 3rd. This morning we went to work as usual in our office, but had not been long engaged when Colonel Landrum, commander of the 2nd Brigade, came running into the tent and reported that the Rebs had made their appearance with a flag of truce in front of our works. Immediately all was hurry and scamper to get a sight of the Rebs. I went up to the front and found that our men were running all over the ground between our works and those of the enemy. The Rebs were not so fresh, but made their appearance in considerable numbers on the works, not however venturing beyond them. I went to the top of our extreme front works to get as correct an idea as possible of the lines, and if possible to gain some knowledge of the rebel fortifications. Upon returning to camp, I found that the flag of truce had come to our General Burbridge's headquarters. The bearers were Brigadier General Bowen and Colonel Montgomery, accompanied by an orderly. What their mission is, I cannot learn. Some think that it means a surrender, but the general opinion is that they want to make some arrangement in regard to firing in the direction of their hospitals. About 12 o'clock they went back to their works. What their errand was is a mystery to all but themselves and General Grant, to whom the communication was addressed. 3 o'clock p.m. A congratulatory order came just now from General Grant, stating that the Rebs had offered to surrender on terms, but the general informed them that his terms were unconditional surrender. And to prove that he meant what he said, he orders that our forces redouble their vigilance and exertions in the trenches. 6 o'clock p.m. A conference with the rebel commander and Grant has been going on ever since 3 o'clock. We confidently look for some big work of some kind tomorrow, as it is our national anniversary. July 4th, 1863. This morning the long-wished-for surrender has been announced, and some of our troops will enter the city immediately. At 10 o'clock a.m., all of the rebel works and forces were formally surrendered to General Grant. The number of prisoners we get here will be about 30,000. One division from McPherson's corps occupies the city. Our corps, General Ord's, has been ordered to report to Black River to look after Joe Johnson and his army. They will go early tomorrow morning. July 5th. This morning all of the brigade except the sick and disabled started with the division for Black River. There is 3 divisions moving in that direction. General Burbridge and staff are going up the river on leave of absence, and I suppose the rest of the boys about headquarters will be left here until he comes back, or the division is ordered away permanently. July 6th. This morning all is hurry and confusion about headquarters. The general and staff are going to be off as soon as possible. All the guards will be left here. The general also told me that he wanted me to remain here until he came back. I went into the city today and took a good look at the rebel works and was surprised to find things in the shape that they were. There is not a house or structure of any kind but what have the cannon shot holes into or through them. Some of the buildings on the riverbank are all knocked to pieces. A great many of them will have to be pulled down or else they will fall on someone's head. In the works in and about the city, we got 140 fine pieces of artillery, together with 50,000 stand-off arms, and most of them are new and in fine order. We captured in this hall one old Spanish piece that the U.S. forces captured from the Mexicans when we had war with them. It was made in 1768 and therefore 95 years old. It is bronze and still looks like a good gun. The ground upon which the city of Vicksburg is built is very precipitous and hilly, and the people have dug under the hills where they took refuge from our shot and shell. It is quite a sight to see their subterranean hiding places. July 7th. Things about camp all look deserted and forsaken since the division left, and more especially since the general and staff are gone. Still, there are a good many soldiers about the camps. Many were left that were considered not fit for duty. Others are constantly coming in and returning that have been out on the march between this place and Black River Bridge. I find it impossible to get into the city or even inside of the lines formerly occupied by the Rebs without a pass from our officer in command, and as the general is now gone, I will have to patiently wait till something more favorable turns up before I can proceed with my map making. July 8th. The news from the rear are very encouraging. Our forces are capturing quite a lot of prisoners every day. Johnson is retreating towards Jackson, but will no doubt make a stand out there somewhere. But if he does, he will most assuredly get whipped, or I lose my guess. July 9th. All is dull about our camps today. No news of importance has reached us from the rear. July 10th. This morning I started early for the city in company with our brigade wagon master for the purpose of getting some passes approved and drawing some rations. After doing what business we had to attend to, we ran over the town until we became weary of riding and then returned to camp. One cannot run about this town without seeing many things to interest and even surprise the observer. They are rapidly repairing the railroad and locomotives on the road that runs into this place from Jackson, and now have a train running out as far as Black River. The rebel prisoners are all, or nearly all, now paroled and will be sent out of the lines tomorrow to go to their homes or into a parole camp as the rebel leaders see fit to dispose of them. July 11th. All is quiet. The paroled rebs are leaving the city now as fast as they get their papers. July 12th. Sunday again, and I and my friends, Whittlesey B. McClurk, are in our saddles and off for Vicksburg. We made a large circuit today in viewing the rebel works. We rode clear around the lower half of their line of fortifications, taking a full half day to make the trip, and we did not let any grass grow under our horses' feet either. The more I look at these works, the more am I convinced of the utter impossibility of taking them in any other way than by siege. The intelligence of the surrender of Port Hudson reached us today. It fell on the 7th of July. July 13th. All is quiet in camp. No news of importance from the rear. July 14th. All men that are able to carry a gun and are not detailed for other duty are ordered to report to their regiments immediately. All means of transportation is to be loaded with rations and go also. Our forces have Johnson nearly invested at Jackson. It is reported that Breckinridge is there also. July 15th. Whittlesey got a furlough today and will go up the river on a boat at 8 o'clock this evening. I accompanied him to the river and seen him get on board the steamer. This takes away the last of the headquarter clerks and leaves me almost alone. No news of importance from the rear today. July 16th. The monotonous routine of camp life has not been disturbed by anything peculiar today. July 17th. All has been as usual about camp today. News came this evening to the effect that Johnson has evacuated Jackson last night and is now probably on his way to reinforce Bragg. July 18th. Reports are being circulated throughout camp today that the 13th Army Corps are on their way to Vicksburg again. The rest of the Army is moving in the direction of Mobile. This evening, one of General Grant's staff officers rode past and said that all the camp equipage on the left of the railroad, all but Smith's division, would have to be on the riverbanks tomorrow. What it means, I am at a loss to determine. But we are going to make a move on the river in one direction or the other is certain. July 19th. It has been excessively warm today. Men arriving from the brigade report that it will not be up for 3 or 4 days. The troops are in a very bad condition and cannot make more than 6 or 8 miles a day. July 20th. Nothing of importance has taken place today. July 21st. Today it is reported that our Corps, 13th, is going to Cairo, Illinois. They are on the march from Black River in that direction. July 22nd. Today the weather has been fine. A stiff breeze is blowing from the northeast. About 4 o'clock it blew up a storm which soaked the dry and dusty earth finely. Tomorrow we look for the division. The roads will be in fine condition for marching now. July 23rd. Troops have been coming in from Jackson all day long. Our division arrived about 6 o'clock p.m. and encamped on the old camping ground. We did not expect them until tomorrow. July 24th. This morning we got ourselves in readiness to move somewhere by 11 o'clock a.m., but just as we were ready to start, we were ordered to remain just where we were until further orders. About 4 p.m. we again started off and proceeded to the river, about a half a mile below the city. Here we encamped. July 25th. Today has been spent in arranging our camp. I'm helping the Adjutant General's clerk write letters. July 26th. Nothing of importance has taken place today, but a great deal of writing has been done at these headquarters. The men are being furloughed at the rate of 5%. July 27th. Everything is on the push today. We hardly have time to do anything but record furloughs. July 29th. Colonel Brown of the 96th is in command of the brigade at present. Colonel Owen has resigned his position. July 30th. All is hurry about the headquarters to get the men furloughed. They are going off as fast as they receive their papers. July 31st. Our Army Corps, the 13th, is ordered to hold themselves in readiness to go to Natchez to garrison the place. We will go in a day or two. Our brigade quartermaster and brigade wagon master were furloughed today and will start for home tomorrow. The paymaster is paying off the regiments of our brigade as fast as possible. We, the 96th, will be paid off tomorrow. August 1st. I started a furlough today for 30 days. Whether it will get through or not, I would give a good deal to know. Colonel Brown was relieved of the command of the 1st Brigade today, and Colonel Owen was reinstated, his resignation having been revoked. The 96th was paid off today. I received $26. August 2nd. Part of our Corps, the 13th, were moved down to Natchez today. They will continue to go now from day to day until the whole Corps is moved. August 3rd. Nothing of importance has taken place today. We are now waiting for transportation down the river. The troops are having fine times here. Everything appears animated and lively. The Marine Fleet is up again from Natchez for another brigade, as they can only carry one brigade at a time. August 4th. Today my furlough has returned, and on the back is the much wished for word in large letters, approved. So tomorrow I am off for home. August 5th. I left our headquarters camp about 10 o'clock today and proceeded to the Provost Marshal's office and obtained my transportation pass for Memphis after running around town for about 1 hour. I went on board the Luminary bound for Memphis. The boat was billed to go at 5 p.m. but did not get unloaded, so we will not get off before tomorrow. August 6th. The boat finished unloading sometime last night and then run across the river to get on a sufficient quantity of coal for the trip. She finished coaling about 7 o'clock a.m. and then run back to Vicksburg to take on some more passengers. We lay at the Vicksburg wharf until 10 o'clock when the old boat put out and proudly moved off up the river. August 7th. We have been running very rapidly all night, past Napoleon about 8 o'clock this morning, which point is about 200 miles above Vicksburg. At this rate, we will reach Memphis early tomorrow morning. August 8th. We passed Helena, Arkansas about 8 o'clock last evening. Helena is 310 miles above Vicksburg. Arrived at Memphis, Tennessee about 7 o'clock a.m. today, having made the trip of 400 miles in about 45 hours. This is pretty fast time, but not as fast as this boat makes at other times when she is not so heavily laden. There is at least 1,200 men on board, one half of which are officers. After arriving in Memphis, I, like the rest, went to the transportation office and procured my transportation pass, which will take me to Cairo by paying 93 cents. Memphis looks much better than it did when we left here in December. I go on board the steamer General Anderson, which is said to be the fastest boat that runs the upper Mississippi. We left Memphis at 3 p.m. heavily loaded. August 9th. This morning when I got up, they told me that we were more than halfway to Cairo, Illinois, or over 100 miles from Memphis, but this I found to be an untruth. We reached New Madrid, Missouri on the west side of the river about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. This place is about 70 miles from Cairo. About 7 o'clock p.m. we passed island number 10 miles above New Madrid. I had a pretty good view of the island and fortifications by taking an elevated position from the deck of the Texas. There is a good many contrabands here, as is the case in all of these southern camps. The works never were very heavy on the east or channel side of the island, for the reason that the river makes considerable bend here, and the west and northwest sides face to the river up and down. Therefore, those are the natural sides for defenses to command the river. For this reason, this point loses a great deal of interest to the passer that it would possess if we could run by on the other side. August 10th. We arrived at Cairo about 3 o'clock this morning, and most of the boys went off on the 4 o'clock train. But as they had to pay full fare on that train, I concluded to wait for the 1 o'clock train today, for I did not feel able to pay full fare, and by waiting I could save nearly one half. I think Cairo would not be a very desirable place to live in. Everything sells at enormous prices. I can buy fruits and eatables in Memphis or Vicksburg as cheap as here. It was an awful jam at the general's office where we got our transportation. We got off from Cairo at 1 o'clock p.m. on a heavily loaded train. Reached Odin about 7 o'clock in the evening, where many of the boys changed cars and went by way of Cincinnati. August 11th. We reached Mattoon, Illinois last night at 1 o'clock, just in time to be too late for the train going east. So now there is no alternative but to wait until the 12 o'clock today, thereby losing 12 hours' time. It's hard, but it can't be helped. At 40 minutes past 12 o'clock, we got aboard the train for Indianapolis. Reached Terre Haute at 3:30. Reached Indianapolis at 5:15, where I remained until 5:30 when I went on board the train for Marion. August 12th. I arrived in Marion, Ohio at 6 o'clock this morning, where I found the folks waiting my arrival. Once more, I enjoy the society of wife and child and the kind hospitalities of my father's house. To be continued. Now we have some more comments on that passage. The first is from John Ray, my father, quote, "Great-grandfather Tom Zuck certainly writes well. His description of the siege of Vicksburg is most eloquent. This part of his diary also provides the hard evidence that he actually was a map maker for General Grant. For some reason, I had always thought he was older and was quite surprised to learn that he had his 26th birthday on June 6, 1863, while a member of the Union forces at the siege of Vicksburg. Thank you for bringing out this exceptionally interesting ZFMC. John S. Ray, Cleveland, Ohio." Now this next is from Richard and Joan Ray, John Ray's my uncle. Quote, "Dick and I want to thank you for continuing with the ZFMC. I doubt if there are many families with such a wealth of memories shared with its members. The family from which I came has nothing like the journals we are so enjoying. And I wish my grandfather, who fought in the Civil War, had left something for other generations to share. We enjoy the comments you include from your pen pals around the world. What a wonderful way for them to learn about an American family. Again, thanks for all the effort you are doing to bring this sense of family history to so many people. Dick and Joan Ray, Greensboro, North Carolina." Now this next comment is from Dale and Lenora Hughes. Quote, "Thank you so much for sending us all the things you have published. We've enjoyed having each one. Somehow, the older we get, the more prized these glimpses of our family become. I really think you have all the material you would need to write a very interesting book, and you could do it, I know. A family biography of the Zucks. Dale and Lenora Hughes, Fort Myers, Florida." Lenora Hughes was the granddaughter of Tom Zuck. And the next one is from Alice Garcia Nee Ray and my wife. Quote, "I read the ZFMC Volume 17 that you sent to me with great interest. Thanks. Your great-great-grandfather Tom Zuck's experiences in war must have been really traumatic ones for this war hero. With all the tension and fears, living with guns and bullets, killings everywhere, didn't know what will happen the next day, and with extreme loneliness because he was separated from his family. That was really terrible. Alicia G. Garcia, Nee Ray, Quezon City, Philippines." So, that concludes today's talk on Tom Zuck's Civil War Diary. Good luck to you in your efforts to find and preserve old letters, diaries, and photographs of family members, and possibly share them through writing them up or through YouTube videos. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. God bless you. Take care, and I'll see you next time.